Did you know that some of the highest paid employees in the entire world are actually forced to play poker as part of their on the job training? When I first heard this, I was absolutely shocked. When I was a kid, I learned that gambling was the fastest way to financial ruin. After all, the house always wins. Every piece of media says this to one extent or another, so, why in the world are some of the most profitable companies in the entire world requiring their employees to learn how to gamble effectively? Even more than that, these employees are expected to win money while they're gambling? That sounds crazy. What are they trying to do? Train James Bond? I can also tell you, these people aren't professional card counters or casino employees. We're actually talking about traders and quantitative analysts from hedge funds all around the world. The trading desks at these largest financial firms all require their employees to do this as part of their training and onboarding because they believe that if you can win the game of poker, you can win the financial game of the stock market. Even more importantly, they believe that you can win the game of money altogether. My name's Dylan, and this is Retained Earnings, where I use my years of experience running finance functions at some of the largest companies in the world to teach you how to improve your financial well-being. Join me in this exploration of the 6 things you need to learn from the poker table on how to improve your financial well-being. First of all, while I'm not a good enough poker player to teach you all of the math behind poker in an 8-minute video, I think it's critical to understand that the best poker players are doing some amount of calculation and math before every single action that they're taking. They're doing this to make sure that they're adequately rewarded for any risk that they're taking. While the math is probably not your cup of tea, the players that win the most in the game of life, are actually literally calculating every decision that they make. This could be anything simple from choosing to buy your groceries on the basis of cost per weight instead of the total dollar of the package, or it can be baking in the number of average bathroom stops that they're having to take on their road trip. Understanding even these simple things from a math perspective lets them make more informed decisions. Maybe that road trip is too long to take in one day after all, even though Google Maps says it only takes 10 hours. It also works for more complicated decisions, like calculating the hidden costs of home ownership, like HOA fees, or deciding when it's better to change jobs instead of sticking around. The key here is that it's not as simple as this new job is going to pay me more. The people that are winning the game are doing math on what the 5-year or 10-year time horizon looks like. Are they going to get promoted faster? Or what kind of raise timeline are they seeing at this new company? Only after doing the full calculation are they ready to make the decision. Second of all, and maybe even more importantly, life, much like poker, is full of ups and downs. Even the best players in all of poker are going to go through losing streaks due to the inherent variance of the game. For professional gamblers, it's important to understand the math behind it, but it's completely unnecessary for the philosophical side of the personal finances. The variance fundamentally teaches us a valuable lesson. You can make the right decisions and still lose. Understanding this in real life can help us accept this reality and help us manage our expectations and emotions. Embracing this variance is really going to help you build resilience and a long-term perspective, which is critical for success in any sort of long-term time horizon. Maybe even more importantly, it's important to recognize that not all of the variance in life is life giving you lemons. Sometimes you're going to be dealt a really good hand even if you don't deserve it. And you need to recognize the times that you need to go all in. If you find the right romantic partner, maybe you should go all in. That's a great financial decision. If you got laid off from your job, it might be time to go all in on that side hustle. Having your sails up so you can catch tailwinds can outweigh any number of bad decisions that you might make. Third of all, it's important to understand to focus on the inputs of your decisions rather than the outputs of your decisions. It's a very natural thought to have that, hey, I won money playing poker, so I must have done a good job. Or I lost money, so I made some obviously bad bets. The reality here is that it's much more complicated. You could have made every right decision and still lost. And you could have made every bad decision and still won because of the variance. However, if you look at a long enough time horizon, all that matters is that you're making the right decisions, because the variance will even out in the end. If a professional poker player calculates the value of a decision to be right, even if they lose afterwards, they're still happy with that. If you focus on the quality of your decisions rather than the quality of your outcomes, success is inevitable in the long term. By focusing on improving our decision-making process and controlling what we can navigate all uncertainty more effectively. While you have to consider every action without focusing on where you went wrong in the past, if you're in a bad situation, it can really make a lot of sense to look 2 or 3 steps back. If you find yourself making a lot of mistakes, you can even start from the very basics, like making sure that you're eating the right food or consuming the right media, because that's an important part of your game too, just like the pre-flop action is in a game of poker. If you feel like you've really focused on all of your inputs and you're still not seeing the outputs that you want over a couple of years, it's maybe time to check your math. Sit down with a friend and make sure that your inputs are actually good and you're not just making a simple, multiplication mistake. If you've managed to apply for over 100 jobs and you haven't gotten an interview from a single one, you might want to relook at that resume. This sounds obvious, but focusing on inputs rather than outputs can improve every single part of your life. It's also important to recognize that sometimes the only winning move is to not play at all. You have to know when to fold them. Hustle culture really likes to embellish the value of working as hard as you possibly can, but sometimes the best move is not to play at all. For many beginner poker players, folding is seen as a sign of weakness. After all, how are you going to possibly connect with that full house that you would have had, after the cards have come out if you fold your 7-2 before you even see the flop? While that's fun for a casual game, when the stakes are as high as they are in real life, you don't want to be caught throwing good money after bad. A professional is going to know that folding is a zero expected value move, meaning that you're at least not digging yourself into any more of a hole. In life, knowing when to walk away from unproductive situations or investments is critical. Folding here is representing a neutral outcome. It's not gaining us anything, but it's preventing us from doing any further damage. Or wasting your time, avoiding opportunity cost. Just like in poker, the average person's playing way too many hands. If you learn to say no more, you're going to conserve your resources and be able to focus them on more promising opportunities. If you're trying to fundamentally change your financial future, driving for Uber might just be a distraction from you building the skills that would allow you to make a much bigger change than just $60 per night. You would absolutely be better without that side hustle. Ultimately, that improves our overall prospect. Sitting and doing nothing is sometimes the best move you can take in life, much more frequently than any of us realize. I think we also have to recognize that everybody's cards are dealt face down in life. Having some cautious skepticism about the way that someone else's apparent headwinds or tailwinds, is important to keeping yourself sane. We've all heard that people are different on social media than in real life, but don't be discouraged just because something seems pleasant on the surface. As a business owner, you don't have to feel imposter syndrome just because things are kind of on fire right now. Every big company is on fire all of the time inside. It's just a question of what you see on the outside. Even more importantly, though, you have to recognize that you can only play the cards that you were dealt. And the same is true for personal finances as well. Just because you lost on a couple of bad investments doesn't mean that you can't turn it around, and that it's no reason to doubt yourself going forward. Again, if you're focusing on the inputs and on an individual level, that friend of yours that just went to Bora Bora may have made it sound like it was a relaxing trip, but if they just levered up and took out a bunch of credit card debt, how relaxed are they going to be when they have to pay that off over the next 5 years? What's the better long-term choice there? If you really want to figure them out, you're going to have to look at their long-term actions. Once you move past the beginner level of poker, you stop trying to put anybody on a hand altogether. You recognize that everybody has a range of motivations that is dictating their underlying actions. If somebody is betting incredibly aggressively before the flop, does that mean they definitely have aces? No, they might be representing something more like, an ace-5 and playing that as a bluff. In life, we put a lot of effort into understanding the exact motivations behind other people, and the reality is that there's no point. That person that just really pissed you off in traffic by speeding by you on the highway at 120 miles an hour, maybe they're trying to visit their mother who's in the hospital. Is that TikTok influencer that is claiming to make $1 million a month drop shipping really doing that, or are they just trying to sell you a drop shipping course? It's impossible to read their hand, so don't even try. Just take the action that makes the most sense for you. Finally, if you're trying to be big picture successful, it's going to take both luck and skill. Should you describe a poker player that won the last 10 hands as just being lucky? Maybe they were betting like they had aces every time, and maybe they did, because that does happen from time to time, but more likely they were probably bluffing and making their own luck. The richest people in the world are very much the same. Luck plays a huge role in the long-term outcomes of life, but it can also be chalked up to variance. If you want to win more than anybody else, you have to be the best player at the table, in your domain of expertise, whatever that is. Otherwise, you're going to be completely wiped out when the variance swings in the other direction. If you want to command a promotion or a raise at your job, it's much harder to fake it than actually putting the effort in to be the most charismatic person, or the best at Excel, or solving that math problem that nobody else can figure out. If you're trying to start a successful business, you have to have a better product, or at least be better at marketing than your competition. If you're a professional musician, you want to be the go-to person for your instrument. That's how you get paid the most. On the other hand, if you're not any of those things today, that's okay too. You can carve your own niche. Instead of being the best carpenter, you can be the best carpenter that makes Venetian-style cabinets in New York City. If you aren't that today, that's okay too, because you can always focus on learning and growing. In the same way that nobody is born as the World Series of Poker winner, it's okay to take the time to learn the skills that you need to actually be the best in your niche. I think that we've seen that the poker table offers a rich metaphor for navigating life's complexities. Whether you're interested in the math or not, there's a lot of overlap in the skills that are required to effectively navigate a business, your career, or your investments. They're all the same as the poker table. Most importantly, if you focus on the inputs to your decisions, everything else will follow. The good news here is that while it only takes one good all-in to book a winning session at the poker table, it also only takes one big success to result in a successful financial life. No matter whether you're just trying to take an easy route through long-term investing, or you make just a couple of really critical decisions to accelerate your career, you can really set yourself up for life quickly. Everyone's going to have to deal with variance, so you have to make sure that you're setting yourself up to capitalize it when the time comes for you. By integrating these lessons from poker into our daily lives, we can all become more strategic, resilient, and lucky individuals, and are better equipped to navigate the uncertainties and opportunities that come our way. While it's a little outside of the usual topics that we cover here on Retained Earnings, I hope that you got something out of this poker analogy today. And if you're a poker player yourself, leave a comment. I would love to play a game with all my viewers. I promise not to take all your money.